Mortgage rates have hit another all-time low. All the math says don't pay extra on your mortgage. I got 3 reasons you might still want to. I'll share those coming up. My name is Mike Bernard. I am the host of the Wise Money Show. I'm also one of the certified financial planners right here at Korhorn Financial Group. Make sure you hit that subscribe button, turn on notifications, and smash that thumbs up button. Okay, so here's the deal. If you haven't refinanced yet, you need to. I've done a few videos about this, but here's the deal. If you're still gonna have that mortgage in 5 years, okay, so you haven't paid it off or you haven't moved, and you can get an interest rate that's about 1% lower than your current interest rate, then you got to refinance. You have to. And you need to be aware that there is an extra refinance fee that's being charged to all loans that go through Freddie and Fannie. And that's going to start December 1st, but many institutions are starting to add that fee already. They'll either increase your interest rate slightly or they'll tack that fee into closing costs. I did a whole video about this. I would, if you're going to go with a lender that's already putting that fee in, I would, well, number one, get some quotes to see if you can find a lender who is not charging that fee right now. But if they are, have them add it to closing costs instead of increase your rate. That should save you money in the long term. But, okay, so you've refinanced and 30-year rates are below 3%. 30-year rates are below 3%. That's unbelievable. 15-year rates are 2.5% or even below 2.5%. That is astounding. That is astounding. Guys, we will never see interest rates this low again unless the Fed moves them negative, which they certainly could do, although they've promised they've not. So they won't. Mathematically, it makes no sense to pay extra on your mortgage. Makes no sense. But I'm doing it. And maybe you should too. There's 3 reasons that even though interest rates are as low as they can possibly go, and we'll likely see inflation that's as high as these mortgage rates, long-term mortgage rates, that's insane. There's 3 reasons why you still might want to consider it. And the very first one is because you want to have the debt paid off, that mortgage payment paid off by a certain time because of another goal. Okay, so let me say it this way. Typically mortgages they come in 2 flavors, 30-year or 15-year, right? And so, but what if you needed to have your mortgage paid off within 18 years? Because in 18 years, you had a child going to college and part of that goal was you were going to cash flow some of the college expenses. Or what if you were going to retire in 7 years? And the way you build your retirement plan is if I'm still carrying this $2,000 a month mortgage, my retirement doesn't work when I go on that fixed income, right? So one reason to continue to actually pay extra on your mortgage, even though mathematically it might not make sense, is if you've got a goal where you're saying, I got to get this debt paid off by this time. And if that's the case, instead of just sticking to your 30-year payment schedule or your 15-year payment schedule, do a calculation where you say, well, what's my payoff? What's my payment amount if I want this thing paid off in 8 years or want it paid off in 18 years or 12 years? How much do I need to pay each and every month to have it paid off by that specific time? Typically, that specific time comes at the time you're going to retire or at the time you've got a kid going to college. That's the situation for me. Part of our goal for helping our kids pay for college is I am contributing some to a 529 plan, but because I want to manage the risk of college expenses being very different out there in the future and college possibly looking very different out there in the future, I don't want to have just a ton of money built up and wealth built up in these 529 plans. If that's your plan today because you have kids going to school, that works. We know what college looks like right now. But in 16 years, my youngest is 2, in 16 years, what will college look like? I don't know. I don't know. So do I want a pile of money sitting in a 529 plan that can only be used for college? Maybe not. So Cindy and I, our plan is to save into these 529 plans, but then have the mortgage paid off by the time the kiddos are in school, so we've got freed up cash flow that can help for college. So that's the first reason why you may want to still consider paying extra on your mortgage, even at these low rates, is because you've got a certain date that you want to have that debt paid off. That's the first reason. The second reason you might still want to pay extra on a mortgage, even at these low interest rates, is to build equity. This might seem a little strange, but I've been warning you on this channel that as interest rates have taken a nosedive and the stock market has enjoyed that, they've liked that, what does low interest actually encourage? It encourages debt. And what does debt actually increase? It increases risk. So one of the ways that you can manage the extra risk of having potentially more debt is to pay that debt down or build equity. Think about it this way. If you were to take this to the nth degree, you could say, well, interest rates are so low, it makes no sense to pay extra on debt. So therefore, every single year, I should refinance to a 30-year loan because I should have as much debt as possible. Well, if that's the case, you'll have very little equity in your house. It would never make sense to pay that debt off if you're just working on the math and you say, well, I can earn more investing over time than this 2.5% or 3% interest rate. I completely agree. You're absolutely right. And if you take that argument to the nth degree, then you'll leverage your house as much as possible and never pay it down. Never. You would never do that. Mathematically, that would work. But if you have an interruption in your income and you're unable to make that payment, that all of a sudden risk goes from, well, this is really not that big a deal mathematically, this makes sense, to, oh my goodness, I could lose my house, right? So the more debt you have, the higher your risk is, and therefore building equity. Another reason to build equity is potentially upsizing your house at some point. Typically, to get the lowest interest rate, you've got to have 20% down. Well, 20% down on a bigger house means you've got to have more than 20% equity on this house. So don't lose sight of still the need to build equity. And if you've just bought your first house or you just refinanced to another 30-year loan or something like that, you might want to pay extra on your mortgage to build equity faster so that you either have less risk or you've got more equity to then put down on the next house. All right, so those are the first two reasons. Those are the main reasons. There's still a third reason why you might want to consider paying extra on your mortgage, even though mathematically it doesn't make sense. And I know you're going to leave comments saying, mathematically it doesn't make sense. I know, I can see that. I know. There's just other reasons beyond math you might want to pay your mortgage off early. And this last one, if you've already looked and said, no, I'm okay, my mortgage doesn't need to be paid off by a certain time, I don't have other goals that I need to free this cash up for, and you've already looked and you're like, no, I've got enough equity, that's fine, I don't need to worry about that. There's still a third reason why you might want to pay extra, and that is you've really accomplished all of your other goals, or you're on track or ahead of pace with all of your other goals. And you might look and say, well, yeah, mathematically I could take this freed up cash flow or this extra cash flow and apply it towards investing and so on, but I've done that and I've got surplus going into investments. And you look and say, well, I'm ahead of pace on all my other goals. If you follow Dave Ramsey's 7 Baby Steps, and some of you might be fans of his, some might not be, but I actually sort of agree with this idea that, listen, once you've paid off all debt, you built up cash, you're saving the right amount for retirement and college, and you want to give more. I mean, one thing you could do is, well, just pay extra on the mortgage then. If you've accomplished all your other goals, or you're ahead of pace on all your other goals, it might as well make sense to just pay extra on the mortgage and again, reduce your risk. So the third reason is, well, if you're ahead of pace, if you're on track or ahead of pace on all of your other financial goals, might as well just pay extra on your mortgage. All of this, those 3 reasons, and really any others, you've got to talk to your certified financial planner about to see, well, does it make sense? Number 1, should I refinance before this new fee is there? 2, should I do a 15-year loan or a 30-year loan? We've talked about that on other videos. And then 3, should I just make my normal payment, or is there any reason why I might want to pay a little bit extra beyond just the emotional? Is there any tangible reason, financial reason, that I should pay extra? There are very few, and the math doesn't support it, but there certainly are still some, and that's what you've got to consider. So work with your CFP on that. If you don't have a CFP, you can contact a member of my team here at Korhorn Financial Group. Find us online, wisemoneyshow.com. You can also find us korhorn.com, that's Korhorn with a K, or send us an email, info@korhorn.com. All right, there you have it. Go out and take your next wise step in your financial life.